What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a guy's video that he posted a couple years ago, but claims that atheism is a belief. So we're going to be analyzing why he thinks this today, and I'm going to be explaining why atheism is not a belief. It's a lack of belief or a non-belief in a deity, and that's it. So if you guys want to fuck around and find out why atheism is a belief, or rather not a belief, then please stay tuned.
Two weeks ago, I released a video titled What the Atheist Must Also Answer. And to summarize and perhaps clarify, the point of the video was that, well, Jesus and Mother Nature, they have two completely different moral compasses. Jesus said that we are to focus upon the weak, the underdog. How you treat them is how you treat him. But Mother Nature, well, she is clearly the mother from hell. She clearly favors the strong at the expense of the weak. Might makes right the survival of the fittest. How you treat the strong is how you treat her. You can't get two more opposing views than those.
I don't think that you understand how survival of the fittest works. It's not about might makes right or anything like that. Also, nobody is trying to appease Mother Nature. Why are both of these views the ones that are at odds? Also, another question that I have is that if God is responsible for creating nature or for creating this world for us, why did he create it like as in a mother from hell or something? Like, I don't understand your entire opening here. It literally makes no sense. It's also kind of a false dichotomy to pit one of the central themes of the Gospels to whatever kind of fucked up thing that you just invented about Mother Nature. I have no idea what you created over here, but it's definitely not anything that anybody has proposed in the past. So you're doing a false dichotomy of Jesus versus this made up pile of shit straw man that you just invented here at the beginning of your video.
And so, while the Christian asks, what would Jesus do? The atheist is really only left with asking, well, what would nature do? But of course, most atheists don't do that. While claiming that nature is all that there is, they in fact live and think like Jesus said.
No, we don't live and think like Jesus said. We just live and think however in the fuck we live and think. For you to place that on us, to sit there and say, oh, well, they actually follow what Jesus said, is to say that we're somehow unconsciously following him. You claim to know us better than we know ourselves. That just kind of makes you a dick. Also, no atheist would say that they follow the laws of nature or whatever in the fuck, at least not in the same way that you would follow Jesus or something. I feel like your entire opening here is just so fucked up.
No, I wasn't trying to be a jerk about it. I wasn't thumbing my nose saying, take that, you godless atheist, you. And yet no sooner after releasing the video, the angry comments came flooding in. You're an idiot. You don't know what atheism is. And while a few did attempt to address the actual point of the video, and kudos to them, most completely dodged the issue altogether by simply stating over and over and over again, atheism is not a belief. Apparently, one or two viewers even went so far as to make counter videos to mine. And this all begs the question, doesn't it? If these people really don't believe in anything, then why are they so adamant about letting everyone else know?
Well, we're not so keen on letting everybody else know. It's not like we're the ones that go out and stand on street corners and hold up a big sign of nothing and being like, God don't exist! Stop believing in God, motherfucker! Stop believing in God! We don't do that. Y'all do, though. We're not the ones that go door to door and try to convince people that Jesus, at least the gospel version of Jesus, never existed. That Jesus didn't die and resurrect. We're not going door to door with these things. That's y'all. Y'all are the ones that go door to door trying to convince people that Jesus did resurrect and atone for their sins. All we're doing is standing up, using our voice against people who claim things that are not true. And it's not true that Jesus resurrected and atoned for sins. At least based on our current evidence, we don't come to that conclusion. The current evidence doesn't support that conclusion. So we're not going out there trying to preach and proselytize atheism. We're just standing up and pushing back against the Christian majority. That's all we're doing.
Now, at the beginning of the last video, I had mentioned how as a Christian I had doubts, became an atheist, had doubts about atheism, and then became a Christian again. And some viewers actually accused me of lying. One viewer said that if lying is the ultimate sin, then you have a VIP ticket to hell. But most claim that I hadn't even been an atheist in the first place, since atheism isn't a belief and therefore there's nothing to question or have doubts about.
I highly disagree with confronting somebody that claims to have been an atheist and then became a Christian. I disagree with coming at them and being like, well, you really weren't an atheist. That's what Christians do to us when we say that we are an atheist now, but were a Christian in the past. You weren't really a Christian. So I'm very hesitant to throw that in anybody's face. Even with like Lee Strobel, it's debatable as to whether or not he was really an atheist at one point in his life, or maybe he was just apathetic to religion in general. But regardless of that point, what matters is that now he's a Christian and he's saying these things that just simply are not true, that are logically invalid, that are fallacious, that he's saying all of these wrong things. We definitely do need to stand up and speak out against somebody like this. But let's try to focus on what matters and not whether or not somebody was really an atheist. It doesn't matter to me if somebody is an atheist and then turned a Christian. I really don't care what your reasons are for becoming a Christian. The fact is that you're on YouTube, you're making a video and making false claims about various subjects. And so I'm going to stand up and use my voice against your rhetoric.
And what stunned me about this latter group was that they didn't see the self-contradiction and the irony to that claim. On the one hand, they were saying that to be an atheist, all you have to do is not believe in any gods. But then on the other, they were saying that you had to believe that atheism has no beliefs to be an atheist. That in actual fact, not believing in any deities was not enough. You also had to affirm, declare that atheism had no beliefs. And unless you did that, you couldn't be an atheist.
I don't subscribe to that. I don't know if any of y'all do. I think that atheists can be just as wrong as Christians can be, or any religious person, really. I feel like, though, he's conflating a couple of different terms here. He's equivocating what he's talking about, because on the one hand, you have atheism, which in and of itself is not a belief. It's a statement about whether or not somebody believes in a God. Either you do believe in a God, theist, or you don't believe in a God, atheist. So it's more of a description of somebody's answer to a single question, right? Whether or not they believe. It has nothing to do with any other beliefs or anything like that. Then in this particular section, he shifts back over to just talking about a person on the whole, being that, well, if you're an atheist and you have other beliefs that are outside of that atheism, that means that atheism has beliefs. So I feel like he's kind of confusing different things here. And he's doing it in a way that makes you think, oh, well, atheism does contain some beliefs, or there are these extra beliefs that pile on to atheism because as a result of not believing in a God, you also have to have these other beliefs. But in reality, atheism is just a description about whether or not a person believes in God and nothing else.
Now, for those who are unfamiliar with this whole argument that atheism has no beliefs, it has become in recent years wildly popular on the internet, entertained by a small but vocal group of largely Western atheists. The rationale goes is that only religious people can have beliefs. Christians, Hindus, Muslims, they all have their religious dogmas, but since atheists don't believe in any of those deities, they are somehow free from having any beliefs of their own.
No, I mean, as far as in the religious aspect of, describing God or any beliefs surrounding God, no. An atheist does not have any beliefs about that. Now, there are incidental beliefs because we don't believe in a God. We have these other beliefs. But those are outside of the context of like God and religion. So it's not that atheists on the whole don't have beliefs. It's just that we don't have a belief about a God.
As one commenter told me, we don't have to answer anything. We just don't believe in any gods. However, claiming to be dogma-free or having no beliefs, it's a lot like a 6'6" Swede standing out in the middle of an open field on a late afternoon claiming that it's impossible for him to cast a shadow. We all have our shadows, our beliefs, our philosophies, our worldviews, whether we're willing to admit to them or not.
What kind of fucking analogy is that? The context that you're talking about is religious beliefs. And if you're an atheist, you don't have religious beliefs. I mean, you could talk about all the other incidental beliefs that come with not believing in a God, but those are outside of the context of a belief in God. We don't describe God in any kind of way. We don't believe that he exists, so we don't have any beliefs surrounding the God belief. I don't know what is difficult for you to understand about this. It really kind of escapes me here. Also, you keep conflating a whole well-rounded person as far as their belief system and the specific subject area of God. Like, you conflate those two because I get it. I guess now that I'm thinking about it, I get it. Because for you, God is the ultimate thing in your life. Like, he is the ultimate figure. He gives everything meaning and everything like that. So obviously God is intricately tied to every single belief you have as an umbrella kind of situation. Whereas atheists, we don't have this umbrella type of situation. We don't have God as our ultimate person above there that just defines everything for us. Atheism only concerns whether or not we believe in a God. Any belief outside of that is totally outside of the context for that discussion. But I get why you think that it should include all these extra beliefs that is not inherent to atheism.
It reminds me a lot of the news media, who are clearly left of center, and yet who strenuously deny having any political agendas or possibly being biased. Now, this self-refuting claim that you can somehow be dogma-free or have no beliefs is actually indicative of our postmodern culture. A friend of mine recently told me of how he saw a large rainbow-colored sign on the front of a church, which stated in big bold letters, dogma free. Well, right away, that tells you what the dogma of that church is, right? That they're liberal and they want everybody to know that they are gay friendly. We're told that our sex education in our schools is value free, which simply means that traditional morality is banned and hedonistic views are promoted instead.
Oh my God. All of that good shit? Really? Oh, how dare they? They are the shittiest fucking people. We're shitty fucking people too here at Godless Engineer. The fucking shittiest, okay? I like how you've added this weird political rant in here. You're basically shaming a church for being open and friendly to the LGBT community. And then you're shaming the public school system for having non-abstinence only sex education being taught, and you describe it as hedonistic. I'm sorry, but I don't know what sex ed class you went to, but there was definitely not a sex ed class where the teacher was like, all right, kids, now listen up. All right, I don't want to hear any lip. You hear me? Johnny in the back, I see you, motherfucker. Stop it. All right, now listen. Sex is cool. Here's some condoms. Now go and just fuck your brains out, okay? I told you I didn't want to hear any lip. Go fuck your brains out right now. There are individual rooms in the back where you can have fuck fest back there. Get all Roman up in this bitch, okay? There's also some wine and beer in the corner. Have fun, y'all. I'm locking you in here. I feel like that's what you think the sex education classes are, where they don't teach you that it's bad to have sex. I feel like that is your concept here of what sex education is like when you don't just preach about abstinence only, which, by the way, I've said this before and I'll continue saying it anytime it comes up, but it's fucking hilarious how Christians think that abstinence only sex education is the best kind of sex education when abstinence only did not even work for Mary in the Gospels. She was a virgin and she got pregnant. How the fuck can you be a representative for abstinence-only education when your savior was born from a virgin? In any case, this should not include political things, right? This video should not be a political thing. I don't know why you're shitting on all of these good, progressive things as if they are bad. I guess it might be bad for your type of Christianity, though, right? Like, you don't want to be friendly to the LGBTQ crowd because you just want to pick up that stone and kill an LGBTQ individual, don't you? That's what you want. You want to teach your kids to hate sex and that abstinence only is the only way to live in life. And that's going to cause a lot of psychological issues for your kids later. And that's why a few individuals go crazy and end up raping a bunch of people, huh? Yeah, that kind of seems to be working out for you, isn't it?
Our culture at large claims that you can believe whatever you want, behave in any way, just as long, of course, that it conforms with political correctness. And as we're seeing more and more now, that any non-compliance can mean losing your job, being sued and dragged before kangaroo courts, having your YouTube channel censored, or being banned from Twitter.
Oh, wait, you mean there's consequences for shit you say? Say no more. It's kind of funny to me to see a Christian who would definitely be on the side of Hobby Lobby, a private business, being able to restrict their health insurance from providing birth control to their female employees. But yet at the same time, he is going to chastise and shame private companies for managing their social media platforms and all this other stuff for the shit that people say. I feel like he wants people not to be held accountable for what they say, but also for private businesses to be able to run their private business how they want to. It's kind of a conundrum here because the two things, they can't exist in the same space. It just baffles me how they just don't want to be held accountable. Like, they see being held accountable for their actions as bad. Unless it's by Jesus, of course. Then it's good. If Jesus holds you accountable, then it's okay. This is a fucking weird mindfuck of a fucking video right here. God.
So other than not believing in any gods, what do atheists really believe? Well, just as there are different religions, there's also different types of atheism. By far, most atheists live in non-Western countries, in former communist countries, who would still associate atheism with some form of Marxism. It's really only Western atheists and a certain segment of those who make the claim that atheism has no beliefs.
So basically, you're distilling down atheists to being primarily from former communist or currently communist countries, and that like a majority of atheists are going to be Marxists or something. How does any of this apply to atheism? Now, I feel like he's kind of trying to conflate state atheism with atheism. Atheism, as it exists in the popular culture now, is not the same thing as state atheism that was practiced by like Mao and Pol Pot and Stalin and all these other people. Like, that was state atheism. What state atheism was they replaced religion with the state so that people worship the state rather than some god. They wanted the state to take place of God. That is not what atheism is. The non-belief in a deity is not the same thing as placing the state in the seat of God. It's just fucking ridiculous. Not all atheists are communists. That's just a ridiculous fucking thing to say. And if you didn't mean to say it, please, by all means, rephrase your fucking statement here. Because it's a really shit statement.
So what do those atheists actually believe? Well, they believe in secular humanism. As stated by the Humanist Manifesto 3, secular humanism is a progressive philosophy of life without supernaturalism, affirms our ability and responsibility to lead ethical lives of personal fulfillment that aspire to the greater good of humanity. That's why none other than Richard Dawkins himself, along with Michael Shermer and Eugene Scott, have all signed the Humanist Manifesto 3. And over the decades, many other leading atheists have signed the other versions.
Well, that's not really anything to do with atheism, though. Like, secular humanism is a completely separate thing to atheism. But there is a little bit of overlap between secular humanism and atheism, considering that secular humanism doesn't really concern itself with the supernatural or God or anything like that. It more or less focuses on, like, living things and what's beneficial for living things. right? It prioritizes living things over these supernatural beliefs. I would say that most likely, most people, most atheists are secular humanists, but I'm not going to force that on anybody. I would consider myself to be a secular humanist, but that is completely separate from being an atheist.
And even those who may not have signed, many still identify themselves, such as I believe the late Carl Sagan. They still identify themselves publicly as humanists. So as I said at the start of this video, while saying that nature is all that there is, many atheists still think and live by what Jesus said.
Well, okay, for one thing, Jesus wasn't the first to say that shit, okay? To try to suggest that caring for the meek and the underprivileged was a very Jesus thing is to totally disregard any kind of effort prior to that point to care for the meek, to care for the underprivileged in the ancient world. I mean, the ancient world was very unforgiving for those individuals, but to say that Jesus invented that shit? No, I don't buy that. Like, that's not a Jesus thing. That was definitely something that was needed prior to Jesus's supposed coming, and they just worked it into their religion. Just, it baffles me how very Jesus-centered this guy is. It's like, oh, well, atheists, they think about, nature is the only thing that exists, but they only live by Jesus's rules. No, I fucking don't, because Jesus probably didn't exist.
It's just called secular humanism. Atheism has beliefs. Now, in closing, I should point out that many of my online atheist critics, while they may not consciously see themselves as humanists, they do nevertheless subscribe to its moral philosophy because it is the dominant form of atheism in the West.
Secular humanism is not a form of atheism. You make literally no sense. You're trying to conflate these things that are not concerned with whether or not a God exists with atheism. And you're just being totally ignorant about this entire definitions game here. And I mean, I don't know if you're being willfully dishonest or if you're just ignorant of what constitutes as a set of beliefs or like atheism, I guess. Like, I just feel like you're very ignorant on this entire subject and you don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you just don't need to talk about this subject. I mean, I don't know. But in any case, heathens, that's going to be it for me today. If you will, I'd love to hear what you guys think down in the comments. Do you think that atheism has all of these extra beliefs tacked onto it? Or do you feel like I do, and that atheism is just a non-belief in a deity? It's just simply stating that we don't believe in a God, and that's it. That's all that it's concerned with. Let me know down in the comments below, and hey, while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.